And part 3. Let's go. Welcome to A Pandemic with Civil Unrest, part 2. I am Nikisha. I am a IT senior business analyst in the travel industry for a Fortune 500 company. We also have Teresa, who is an entrepreneur, a mom, a wife, and she's also a podcaster of The Good with Teresa G. We also have Charlotte. Charlotte is the owner of Angry Den Counseling. She is a licensed professional counselor and life coach. And last but certainly not least, we have Candace, who is an IT asset manager, mom of one, and a wife as well. And they're all wives, except for me. Uh, So we want to welcome you to tonight is a follow-up to a great conversation that we had a week ago. And for those that missed it, here are some of the highlights that came from our last video. So a couple of the questions that were on the table that we talked about last week were what were our own personal experiences with when we realized that we were different, that because of our race, we were different. Also, we talked about the civil unrest and how we're feeling and how we're dealing with that. So these are some of the highlights that came out of that conversation. So Charlotte lived down the street from the hotel where Dr. Martin Luther King was shot. She was there during that time. They were told to lay down on the floor when it was happening. She was a young child, but she knew that something was wrong, but didn't understand why we were fighting. She also called out about the Black Lives Matter movement. She said, until we realize that we matter, Black lives truly won't matter. And then on the subject of racism, she made the comment that hate has been around since Jesus, and we need to get back to what would Jesus do. And her personal feelings about her own identity is that she always wanted to be different, regardless of her race. She just always wanted to be different and wanted to stand out. And some of her personal experiences with being treated differently. She shared a touching story about being rejected by a close friend as a young child who happened to be white. Then we have Candace, who, when she shared her feelings, she talked about when you have been oppressed for so long and you don't know how to process those feelings, you get fed up. Those were her comments regarding the unrest that we were in. She also spoke to the hate that we're seeing and that we face today. And she said that America has a hate problem that goes back way back when they stumbled upon this inhabited land. The hate began back then. And some of the things that she questions now, with everyone paying attention to what's going on, she says, so you're just now realizing that Aunt Jemima is a mammy? And so that she noted the fact that the scales are being removed from all of our eyes. And as far as her personal feelings about being different, she feels a pride in being Black because she realizes that we have such a rich history and story. And some of her personal experiences is that she shared were with some friends, well, actually, I guess dance mates, you can call them, that they didn't engage with her and her other Black friends in the dance class that she had throughout her childhood. The white members of the class just did not engage with them other than the dance routines. So that was her personal experience that she shared. And Teresa gave some heartfelt statements. One of her concerns was that she does not want her daughter to be 40 years old and still having to deal with everything that we're dealing with right now. And one of the things that she's doing to help make a difference and put a stop to what's going on is she's holding others accountable for their actions. Her words were, you have to expect respect. And her thoughts about being different and being Black, she said she loves being Black. There's a power that is deeply ingrained in us that is spiritual and powerful from our ancestors, I'm sorry. And then as far as her personal experience, she shared a very heartfelt story about being terrorized and chased during recess at school because she was Black. And that happened very early on, as early as like first or second grade. So as you can tell from the highlights, we had a great conversation last week, and that video is on my page if you want to go and check that out. But tonight, we want to pick up where we left off before. And the question on the table was, how do you embrace your uniqueness? And how, because we went through talking about how we were um, treated differently, but how do we embrace it? And I wanted to share that for me, it took a long time for me to truly embrace who I am. And I think, being honest, I don't think I really embraced who I was as just as a person. We can take race out of the conversation. Just as a person, I don't think until I turned 40 that I truly realized and embraced who I am. I think before growing up, it wasn't really a race issue um, because of the town I'm from. I'm from East St. Louis, so we are 99.9% Black in this city.
Yeah.
And so race was not an issue. So, I looked like everyone else. So that wasn't an issue. But in college and in the workforce, um, I knew I was Black, and I'm not going to say I tried to fit in, but I pretty much just went with the flow. However you perceived me, that's how I showed up. But it wasn't until I turned 40 when I started saying, wait a minute, somebody. I got standards. I started setting some boundaries. I started looking at life differently, and I'm not gonna show up and be who you expect me to be. I'm going to embrace fully who I am, everything about me. I am a woman. I am Black. I'm a mother of two kids with two different fathers. I'm divorced. I'm all of these things. And I embrace that because even with all of those experiences, I still have a story to share. I still have a purpose, and I'm walking in it. And for me, and I think we talked about this before we started the meeting, just in our pre-conversation before, I'm unapologetically Black. My name is Nikisha. Hello. One out of every three Black women are named Keisha or some form of Keisha. It's maybe a different prefix. It may be spelled differently. But you can't. I show up. You already know what you're getting just by my name. And I know, Candace, you mentioned that before, just with your HR background, how, people look at that name. You can't look at that name and not know who I am coming in the door. So you want to get your...
Do you know what Nikisha means?
I honestly have no idea. My mom said that there was a singer who had a song that she liked named Keisha Brown. And that's where she got the name from. And then my middle name, a friend of hers had a daughter that was named, because my middle name is Janae. And a friend of hers had a daughter with that same name. And so she got my middle name from that. So I've never researched it. Because it's so common. And I think it was just a popular name in the 70s and 80s to name, your child some form of Keisha. So, yeah, so being Black, I have no choice. Um, it's, it is what it is. I am, who I am. But I'm proud of it. I don't try to shy away from it. I don't say, okay, call me Janae. No, call me Nikki.
Right,
You can call me
right.
Nikisha. You can call me Keisha. It does not bother me. I am who I am. But like I said, it took me to turn 40 to embrace everything about me. I think my race was never an issue. It was always just who I am. What are my standards? What do I stand for? What do I believe in? Those are the things that I started taking notice of at the age of 40.
Mm.
But when we wrapped up before and we had to end abruptly, and I apologize for those who may go back and watch the other video, we did have to end suddenly, but we were having a very interesting conversation about a name. And I'm going to say the name, the word name, nigga. This name, um, we probably as a race, originally going way back when, to slavery was a name that mostly the whites called us. That's how they referred to us. It was always used in a derogatory way. But, and I'm just going to say, just our culture, we are known for taking things that may seem negative and we'll turn it around and use it either in a positive way or however we choose to use it. We are just known as a culture to take things that were used to hurt us and strip that pain away from it and use it in our language. And I think from generation to generation, it's been passed down and used in different ways. You fast forward to 80s and 90s, it's all over our music, rap music. Um, and I've even seen, and I laugh every time I see it. There was an old episode of Sanford and Son from the 70s where he actually used the word on TV. And I remember being older, looking back at that, like, they let him say that on on TV. Like, I couldn't believe
Wow.
that, yeah, because it was an episode. He was actually in court, and I forget what he was in. I think it was like a traffic ticket. I can't really remember. But Fred Sanford said to the judge, "You don't see all these niggas in here?" Like, he said, and there was like this big eruption, from the crowd. They laughed. And I want to say I may have seen it on the Jeffersons, but I can't really say for sure. But it was known as something that you don't say in public. You don't say on TV. You don't say that out loud. You say that in the comfort of your own home. But we as a culture, we've kind of taken that word and then we change it and say, well, we're not saying nigger with the ER, we're putting the A on it. And then it's become a term of endearment. Like, what's up, my, oh, that's my, and it's like, and then and you on the receiving end, you, hey, like it was almost like a badge of honor. And so everyone who uses it has different thoughts. Um, and Candace, and I'm gonna start with you because I know that you kind of talked about you're not wanting to use that word anymore, and starting to make a change and talk about your feelings about it. Um, what sparked this change, and um, what are your thoughts about the word in general?
Well, so it's kind of like what you mentioned with our music growing up, and so we uh, came up in the era of uh, rap and hip hop, getting really getting more notoriety
Mm-hmm.
and crossing over.
Mm-hmm.
But on that journey, we started seeing the language, because thinking back to like our parents' music, like the Temptations and the Four Tops were not using vulgar words in their
Mhm.
music.
Mhm.
So with the rise of hip hop, we started hearing profanity in it, and then it became okay. We started seeing like I said, women being disrespected, and it really was mostly our women
Mhm.
being disrespected in these songs. And then I feel like that's when it really, really just kind of, that word was like, became a social norm within the Black community. I can't recall who made the statement about the Black woman. It may have been, I think it may have been Malcolm X may have said that the Black woman is the most disrespected, unprotected woman or individual on the face of this earth. In order to change the world that we live in, we've got to do some radical pivots.
Mhm.
And that is saying, hey, I know that almost like we were brainwashed to thinking that we were turning a bad into good, but
Mhm.
were we really? Because we don't allow other races to use that word towards us, so there's still a sting with
Mhm.
that word. If there's still a sting, there's still a problem. I've even heard rap songs now where, or even in conversation, women are referring to each other uh, as bees,
Mhm.
as a term of endearment. That was like the ultimate insult, is to call us out of our names. And now we've turned that around and we're saying, hey, and it's
Mhm.
like, okay, I might be a little out of the loop, because I don't have a friend that I would greet that way.
Mhm.
And I don't have a friend that I would accept them greeting me that way. And that goes back to your statement on what I think you said Teresa made that statement last week on expecting respect. We can be friends, we can be homegirls, we can be whatever, but that is not the way that I choose to allow people to greet me. And I think we just have to, say, hey, things. If we want to see a change, we've got to be the change, and it requires like a radical change is, for instance, removing Aunt Jemima. Radical change is the fact that they're having a conversation about, should we change the city of St. Louis's name? Those are the conversations that say, "Ooh," that make us uncomfortable. But we have to really say, like you said, with the N word, is that really acceptable anymore? Because as to me, if we continue to make that acceptable, then we really aren't going to see the change that right now we're demanding. We're in the streets fighting. Are we really fighting to be able to call each other a racial slur that people are being terminated from their jobs for using? Why is it okay?
Mhm.
Like, we just have to stop. And when you know better, you do better.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, now we know, let's do better. So
That's good. And Charlotte, I'm gonna go to you because um when we talked last week, one of the comments that you admitted that you use it, and I admit I use it too. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I don't. You know, I know for myself, I go back and forth. It's a battle for me to now. I will not expect it from a white person to call me that. I get uncomfortable if I'm listening to rap music with white people and that word is in it, and it's kind of like,
hmm
ooh,
yeah.
it becomes uncomfortable. But I haven't taken the steps to move forward to make that declarative statement of, oh, I will never use it again. I haven't quite made the leap. So Charlotte, I'm gonna go to you on your thoughts on that, because I don't think you've made that leap either to say, oh, I'm not going to use it. So I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, my thoughts. Okay, what I was thinking when y'all was talking, and I was thinking back to what I said. Yes, I have used it. However, the way I have used it, and it's not making it right
Mhm.
or anything, no justification for it. My reason for using it is usually so that I won't call you an MF. So, so, and when I use it, it's not to greet anyone. It's not,
Mhm.
I'm not talking to any of my friends or anything like that. I find myself using it if I'm driving and you done cut me off, or I'm driving and I'm stopped at the stop light red. You just think you can blow through it. Then I see these tip tags flying off of your car, knowing now you have no insurance. So when I see you coming up, so then I will say, nigga, I don't know. I don't know if you were black, don't care, white or whatever. That's when you hear me you say it. And now because I'm working on, I'm a Christian and I'm working on some things, I say, well, okay, Lord, I didn't call him an MF. I called, so that's to me at that time, that's what that means. That's what nigga mean to me when I call you that, because I've always felt that when someone said it, they were saying that I was ignorant or being
Mhm.
stupid or something like that. So that's what's in my head
Okay.
when it comes out. So that's my reason, for saying it. Not is no endurement, no any of that. And I think Keisha, you mentioned also with people being called a bitch, and
Mhm.
I truly have a problem with even just hearing the word bitch, because it's a trigger for me, because we grew up. My father used bitch like we use nigga.
Mhm.
I don't know, and I never. And it's because he's gone now. I can't ask him. Well, why would you call us that? We were just little bitch, and and it was nothing. It wasn't it. And thinking about it, he didn't say it in a like a mean way. He said it like he didn't know my name was Charlotte. I I don't know. I just don't understand it. But it's a trigger now. So just like it bothers some people to hear nigger, it truly bothers me to hear bitch. So I understand why it affect people and offend people and should not be used. However, yes, that's my reason,
Mhm.
and that I use it, and when I use it, because I'm trying to justify, to the Lord that I didn't cuss him out, Lord. I didn't, even though I was thinking it, but
But you know what, Charlotte, and that's good. And I thank you for your honesty on that,
Mhm.
because that also brings up a good point. And I'm going to get to you, Teresa, in a second on that. But it also brings up a good point that, yes, that is, the N word is a hateful word, but the MF, that's pretty. If you ever really just sit and think about that, that is probably the worst thing that you can be called is an MF, because just what that implies. And again, our race, I've heard that used as a term of endearment as well. So it's like, but when you think, and the B word as well, and I have a sister, that's her favorite word. It's like everybody is one. It doesn't matter. Her kids, a woman, a man, it does not matter. That is what I don't know if she calls a pastor one, but that is like
yeah,
what that is.
Oh
That is
yeah,
her word that
sure
she
he is.
uses. And and to her, it has no meaning at all. Like it's like, what's the big deal? Like for her, it's, I can never, if she calls me and I'm driving, I have to immediately take it off of Bluetooth, because I just know that, what's going to happen on that other end. But Teresa, I'm going to take it to you, because um, where, like, how you've described you've grown up and where you live, there's not a lot of Black people. So I'm sure that word probably means something a lot different to you and in the circles that you're in?
Well, I'm gonna say two things first. I'm on a bouncy ball, so that's why you see me bouncing on people. Just to clarify that. And then I also want to just come out there and say that I am a potty mouth.
Mm.
I'm a potty mouth. My daughter's always like, "You're not supposed to say that," and I'm like, "I know."
Mm-hmm.
But I don't use the word nigger because, of
Mhm.
course, the only time I've ever, because I live in a very white, I've lived in very white areas. The only time I've really heard nigger is for like someone speaking to me in a bad way, or speaking about someone else in a bad way.
Yeah.
And it's always it's always been a white person. You know, when I listen to rap, I'll tell you that I remember I was just like appalled when I was young and listened to that first rap song when they would just like go, you know, nigger, nigger, nigger. I'm just like, what? You know, and then the way that they speak about women too is challenging. So, you know, when we're talking about change and how we're talking about how it begins with us, like, yeah, I probably, because I, you know, my major word is F. So I'll say that all the time. And some people would be extremely offended by that. So it just depends on who you are, I guess. But I do agree with Candace that we have to, if we're going to create a massive change, we have to start changing these small details in our life. So we have to stop being okay with words that carry hate and pain and destruction of us as people, and because we are the example. So I think it's super important that we start maybe not using that word, because it does carry so much pain for us as people. And we have used it as a way of saying, brushing it off and saying, hey, it's all good. We're good with the word. It's fine. We use the word. But deep it down inside, if someone from another race calls you a nigger, it hurts deeply and it brings up emotions from generations and generations of pain. So if we're going to start the change, then I have to say, you know, as all people, we can start with such small ways, and not using those derogatory terms that carry so much history with each other is probably a wonderful way to start.
I agree. I think it's great. I think all of your perspectives are great, and the honesty behind it. That's what I love about it. And like I said, for me, it's a struggle. It is a struggle because, and I even question myself at times. I don't do it as so much now because my life is like taking a different path. But back then in my younger years, you know, because that was another career I thought I was going to have. I was going to be a rapper. And so,
Ooh, you got any of that music available?
yes, all of that derogatory music, yes, all of it. That was all me.
I want to listen.
And that, you know, I listen. I just thought was going to. In college, I had a group of friends that we would be in what we call ciphers, and it'd be just a group of us and just freestyling. I really thought that I was going to be a rapper. So all of that music, and then I would question myself, like, why are you listening to this? Listening to what they're saying and how they're talking about women, but this is how I was justified in my head. Oh, they're not talking about me. They don't mean me. But I also would say I knew a group of people that fit the description that they were talking about. So I'm not making it right, not making it right, not making it right, not making it right. I'm let me make that clear. But that's how I justified it.
There's no judgment here. There's no judgment here.
Well, no, I'm
just, it sure isn't.
That's just
like,
absolutely.
if each
Absolutely.
of us were sitting here 20 years ago, this would be a different conversation.
This would be a
It
totally
would.
different conversation. It really would.
It will
Yes.
probably be a lot more cussing than
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
20 years ago. Oh,
Yeah.
You would be appalled. I
no.
would be
Yeah.
appalled.
Yes. So it,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be a completely different
Yeah.
conversation. But
Yeah.
that's how I justified it. And like I said, now, I don't listen to that music as often as I used to. But that's some stuff I'm gonna have to soul search and
It's
really have some
a
conversations with
process.
God. Yes, that's a
It's a
process to
process. Yep.
completely just say, nope, never, I won't. And
Yeah.
here's what's interesting. I'm gonna say this last thing, and I'm gonna move on to the next point because I don't want to tear the hour. Oh, I'm so churchy.
No.
I don't
Adrian said, "Terry the
want
hour."
to. I want us to
Okay.
stay on time. But the last thing I was going to say that was interesting about that word in my home growing up, that was like a cuss word. I wasn't allowed to say that word in my house. My mother did, along with the other cuss words she used. But me, myself, I could not say that word in my house. So if it was ever said, it was not at home and not in front of my mother. And I think that even I carry that into adulthood. Like I would never say that word. Even if if I'm repeating something back to her that someone else said and they use that word, I wouldn't say it. Now,
Okay.
she, no holds barred with her. But no, I just didn't use it. So, and I believe I've raised my kids that way. My oldest, she doesn't use that word around me because
I was
never.
gonna say, when you start, if you want to turn on some good rap music, and then your, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old starts singing it, it is like a pause. Like,
Yeah.
what? Whoa.
Mhm.
Whoa, this goes against everything that I want you to think about life. So, and that's with a lot of music, not just rap music,
It
but
sure is. Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
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 It does, and it's yeah, with the kids and the music, I will say I'm grateful for Disney with my oldest because that was the way. Because I'm like, you can't listen to what I listen to, even if it was R&B, because R&B,
Right.
Yeah.
is very suggestive. So it's
It
like,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, you can't listen to that either. So I was so glad that the Disney Channel had an AM station that
Yep.
I would
Radio
turn on in the
Disney.
car, like, this is what we're gonna listen to. So yeah, so that was good.
Yeah.
That was good. And
Yeah.
the thing about music, and that's why I'm glad that there are many genres that you can go to. You don't have to stick with one particular type of music
Right.
that you want to listen to, but for everyone, whatever your favorite type of music is, it puts you in a space. It can either give you energy, it can calm you. Music has a way of transcending your mood. We have been in this pandemic going on, what month? Is it 3 months?
Oh.
February. Actually,
No.
February.
Okay.
It started in January, but we didn't know about it until actually by
Like
February.
February. Okay. So then, but the shutdown really came like in March, right?
March. Yeah.
That's when
Yeah.
March came. And so here we are in June. Some restrictions are lifted, but the numbers are rising. I don't know if it's because more people are getting tested, but what's scary now is that people that are testing positive for it never showed any symptoms. They never showed any symptoms of no sneeze, no cough, nothing. Before it was like, oh, if you feel like you have the flu, it's probably COVID. Now it's, oh, you wake up out the bed, you probably have COVID. It's 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 like the symptoms don't matter anymore. But aside from the fear of the disease, what I want to talk about and hear from each of you, and Teresa, I'm going to start with you. How have you been coping with the pandemic and being in quarantine, and what have you learned?
I would say in the beginning, I coped really well. I was like taking time out every day to like meditate and like, you know, get all zen and I was really quite positive, you know, and we can do this. And even though I might not have been too okay because I started like buying things from Amazon, like there was no, like, I'm like, I won't stop spending just because I'm stuck here.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just getting boxes and boxes, and my husband's like, what is that? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. He's like, there's a whole pile of boxes. Like, what do we need? I'm like, I don't think we probably need it. But so that has been a real problem. I've proven to us all that I can keep spending during the pandemic. I think it's gotten harder now. It's super hard. It's the summer and it's nice out and it's a time where you socialize all the time. And I think it's really been hard as a mom, the mom aspect and my daughter, it's hard, here everyone's getting back to life and I don't feel like it's time to get back to life yet. I really like kids alone. We have had so many viruses in this house this year. And I don't know why that is this year. So we have our select few friends that we play with and we know that they're taking precautions and that's who we hang out with. But it's getting hard and people are giving us, they're like, life is getting back to normal. How are you going to get back to normal now? Are you going to join us ever? And I think that's the hardest part. And then things happen. Like my family just had an exposure to someone who has COVID. So now my whole family has to get tested for COVID. And then you step back and you say, you know what? That is why I'm taking these risks. This is why I'm not taking these risks. This is why I'm taking precautions, because just one person in your group who gets it, your whole group, that one person, we counted like 17 people that one person could affect. And that's just the people we know. So I don't know. I don't know where I stand. I'm not coping with it that well. I'm really over COVID. I sort of wish the government, it wouldn't have been such a big deal maybe, because I don't know, do you guys think it was overrated? Do you think it's underrated? I feel like we've really caused some major issues with with first of all the sick people that aren't getting care, all the people who live in, deal with anxiety and depression, that this has just pushed them overboard. And imagine certain people that have been stuck in their homes, like in small apartments in New York and not been going out and stuff, the consequences of that. And then just the endless consequences emotionally on so many levels for our children. How are your children coping? How are you helping your children cope? And then I don't know. Like, am I ever going to want to fly again? I don't know. I don't know. Am I ever going to want to be shaking everyone's hands? Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah. That's good, Teresa. You've brought up some good points as far as the overrated, underrated, however rated. I think this is something, my personal opinion is that I don't think this is in a book anywhere on how to handle, a pandemic. I feel like everyone was trying to figure it out as we went along. I do feel like some decisions were based on fear, but I don't know of a better way that it could have been handled either. I feel like I think that being at home made sense. For me, being at home wasn't a big deal because I'm an introvert anyway, so being at home, it's like I'm built for this. As long as I have food, I'm okay. I don't have to go out. That does not bother me at all. But what I wasn't prepared for was being a first grade school teacher along with working. And that was really hard. As a mom, that was really hard. And so I do think I'm going to be honest. School is starting in the fall. I'm I think I'm ready to take my chances. I'm in August. It's like in August. And and there's a survey they sent out, and I have to fill it out, with precaution. I mean, my daughter
Are they
Bree
going to school?
knows. Hmm?
Did your district decide if they were going to school?
In the fall, yeah,
They
they're going to
they are.
open. Yeah.
See, we haven't heard yet.
Our governor just announced it. I think it was like last week, maybe the week before, that schools will reopen, but it may be altered. Some of the questions that were on the survey were like, would you prefer to bring them 3 days a week? Like do some in class, some on the computer. Does it bother you if they wear their mask all day? And she's better about a mask than I am. So she's so used to when she goes out, she knows she has to wear a mask now. So that's become her norm. So that I don't think that
Wow.
bothers her that, she
That's
has to wear a mask. So she's expecting when she goes back to school, that's what she'll have to do. And then she made a comment that maybe we won't have recess, but that's okay. So, and they'll do temperature checks and all of that, each day. So it's going to be different, but I do feel like they need to get back to whatever the new normal is, because I, for one, am not built. I can't continue to work and teach her at the same time. I never signed up for homeschooling.
I'm there with you.
When you ask me what did I
I'm there
learn,
with you.
I learned I am not a teacher. I am so glad I did not go into that profession. I cannot do it. I'm not a teacher, and I am not a stay-at-home mom. I am an evening and weekend mom, and I admit it. Okay with that.
Mhm.
I am evenings and weekend this entire day, having to feed you all day and talk to you in the evening and the weekends. And it's she's 6. Like how you can just imagine the conversations.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. Entertainment wise too. Like nonstop entertainment.
yeah. So it's
I think that's the most stressful thing is that part.
yes. So Candace, you don't have little ones. So
I
you
don't
have
know.
a young adult, I should say,
Yes.
freshly young adult, probably she's still a teenager. She's still a teen.
She is. She is.
Um,
Yes.
so how you didn't have to do any teaching, but how have you been dealing with the pandemic, and what have you learned?
So I think, look, this has been like it's been a journey, and I can't believe when you guys said it's just been 4 months, because it seems like sometimes it feels like it's been like
Year,
all of
years.
2020. I'm like, good
Mhm.
Lord,
Mm.
but it's been so many lessons in this pandemic. One is the whole idea, the whole notion of making plans, because I have a 2020 graduate. So I had all of these plans and ideas and dreams that I thought would pan out a certain way, and they did not. I only have one child, so I expected the whole pomp and circumstance for the graduation, for the prom, and I was just looking forward to that, and none of that happened. We did. I do feel like the graduation turned out better than I probably could have expected, but there's nothing like hearing your child's name like called out, and nobody was calling names this year. But I like the idea. I think we learned a, a new way of celebrating with the graduation parades and stuff like that, and the birthday parades. I think that is just so cool, and I hope that continues on after the pandemic. But also the appreciation. I have a new appreciation for waking up every day, because I saw so many people, especially in the I guess you'll say, like, in the crux of the whole pandemic, when they were highlighting, the different news outlets were highlighting the people that had, lost their lives to the coronavirus. These people looked like me. There was nothing that could have made it any different. It's like they resembled me. It's like they were young, they were, vibrant, they were living their lives. And then all of a sudden, oh, bless you.
Bless you.
All of a sudden, they had gotten this virus, and then it was, life had taken a turn. So I feel kind of like guilty and even like selfish, even saying, oh, we didn't get a chance to have a graduation and a prom, when there are families that are changed forever. I've heard of so many people that have been affected. I don't know any one person personally that has been affected, but I know of people who know of people. And it's just, that's heartbreaking. And it's just like, I just am grateful for each day. It's just like each day, like, Lord, okay, Now on the other side, and because I always have to add a little humor, because I don't want to be too serious. Every day they had me waking up questioning, Lord, did I come down? Do I have the Rona? Did I get it? I was just like, oh my God. Like, if I was like breathing hard, and I was like, why am I breathing like this? Oh, I got the Rona. It's just like
we've all done it.
Rona.
We've all done it.
Yes.
We've all been there.
Yeah. So I was just so paranoid. So now, after hearing about all these people that are asymptomatic, I'm like, I probably had the Rona when I thought I had the Rona, and now I'm okay. I don't know, So yeah.
Yes, and I agree with Teresa. Yes, we have all been there. It's like, whenever I hear, because I've heard a few people that have gotten, each time it's like, I start feeling like my throat sore. As soon as I hear anyone, that's remotely close, I start just feeling back here, like,
trying to see if you
like,
got some swollen glands.
yeah, like I'm doing a whole workup on myself, about to do lab work, everything. So,
allergy season.
Yes.
Yes.
Explain that.
Yes.
Yes. And we have it bad here too. And so, that doesn't help.
Yeah,
So,
I was like, it's twitching. I twitching the sign of the Rona. Like, my eyes twitch.
Yes. It probably is. It probably is. We probably should all get tested. So, Charlotte, so I'm going to end with you. So, how have you been dealing with it, and what have you learned?
Okay, I'm going to first say it's a day to day, because it truly changes every day, every hour. I wanted to address Teresa's question on whether it's over. Look, I got my eyes, something in my overexposed or under. I want to say both. That's sounds kind of crazy. I think it was under when they first started off. I really feel like they knew about it. They should have just been honest, straight up front, what was really going on. And so once we got a hold to the fact that, oh, wait a minute, this is real, people are dying, then I think it started with an over. Because I was watching it every day, all day. And the problem is, right now, with everything, even with the unrest, communication. When you do not communicate, this is what we get. And we're not on the same page. Illinois, I was on the roll for a minute doing, just doing the thing. We are not going to take any chances, because Chicago was like the first one that was, people were dying. So Illinois was doing what they were supposed to do, shutting it down. Okay, well, I'm over here in Missouri, but I go to church, Illinois. So here I'm thinking, okay, we kind of good because Illinois shut things down. In Missouri, we still got things open because we are believing in our president going with what he's saying. So here's the communication. It, it takes a leader. It takes somebody to make those hard decisions, stick to it. And when we realize, instead of blaming, instead of we were so into blaming, this was a what they said a Chinese, which
Oh,
that is Chinese, which is that was racist right
oh,
there.
yes.
Asian, it said an Asian disease. So as and we all are guilty because as black people, we over here saying, well, it's Asian, we good. Because we know we ain't going over in, China and all. How many of us can go there and all that? So we wasn't worried. So we kind of let our guards down. And
Mm-hmm.
so because of that, now we're in this. That's when it becomes a pandemic because we have been exposed now because we have in our head that it can affect us, which we should know better because everything affects us,
Mhm.
And so then what happened when you said overexposed, they started saying, let's check the numbers. Hold up. There's a lot of black people dying.
Mm.
And then it got to, well, hey, as long as a lot of black people dying, let's stop talking about it. So that's where the underexposed came. I didn't see that. I was looking forward to seeing Dr. Fauci because he was professional. That's why people, why we're not listening to the professional? This man owe a lot of money to somebody. He learned a lot of stuff. But he was telling us everything we needed to know. But then we had a president that said no.
Mm.
If you don't believe what he's saying, why is he talking? Why do you have him talking? I knew it was true. But you got the group that says going with the president. You got that group that said I'm going with the expert. So
Mhm.
now what happens? We have all these people are walking around here with no masks on, no gloves. I'm all for. I understand we got to eat, and you had to open up, and for people to go to work, but it's not time. I heard you, Keisha, was saying about schooling. And God, my kids are grown. I don't have to deal with the grandkids. My daughter had to, do that. So I can't imagine what y'all going through. I hear about it, but I don't have, do this in the pandemic. So what's hard for me right now is the fear. I had gotten over it, like you, Candace. I had Corona about 3 or 4 times. I know I have.
We all
Uh,
have.
yes, and as a mental health person, the fear is real.
It is
The, the
real.
the fear
Yeah.
is real. The stress is real, and and the anxiety is real. And what I tell people, it is a day-to-day thing. You just, today you may be all right. I guarantee you tomorrow you're gonna be feeling some kind of way. and
Mhm.
and and it just and you just got to deal with it on a day, day to day. So I'm hoping and praying that we will start listening, we will all start communicating and doing what we know, that we should do. Yes, I'm tired of wearing the mask, but now I'm feeling like this is going to be a part of my life, so therefore I'm matching my
Mm.
mask with my clothes,
Oh
coordinating.
no! I
Oh
hope we
yes,
don't get
You're
to that.
oh
raising the
yes,
bar.
yes. We got to coordinate. So 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 we just need to get on board with the coordinate. First, we were really worried about having the N95. Got several N95. I have not put that mask on, and that is the best that was out there. We couldn't even get them, but
Mhm.
now I'm not. I done kind of relaxed.
Hard to breathe in
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. See, and I gotta breathe and I can't. So, but as long as I feel like as long as you got something covering over your face, some people with the gloves, however that take it serious. And people,
Mhm.
a lot of people are not taking it serious until it hit home, and it has hit home for me. I have a whole niece and her whole family tested positive. That's a
Mm.
week ago. And yes, no, they did not have any symptoms. And why I think
Wow.
they just decided because Walgreens was doing it where you can just come in and do the rapid test, and they all
Mhm.
went in to do it. They all were positive. And they were actually going to come over, Candace. We had the celebration for my granddaughter. She's a 2020 graduate. And so they were coming to the house, and she got her test results back that day. She didn't
Oh
tell
my
me, and
God.
I'm thinking, why they didn't show up for Shade, for Jade's graduation. That's what, and then her daughter called me 2 days later and said, oh, they all tested positive. Now the daughter was the only one in the family that didn't test
Wow.
positive, and their grandfather tested positive a month ago. Now he was sick, and but
Really?
he didn't go into the hospital. But them, no symptoms. So this makes it even more scarier because I've been around you. You ain't got no symptoms. So why would I think
Right.
there's a problem? And then find out later you done gave it to somebody else. And the problem is the people that are really dying, are really getting sick, they already have issues.
Underlying
So
issues. Yeah.
these underlying issues. And I'm one of those people. So that's why I'm like,
But there's plenty of
okay.
people who don't have underlying issues and they're dying, and they're 40 years
True.
old.
Yeah.
And I think that's what scares me the most is we're like, oh, we're fine, we don't have underlying issues, and
You
that's
don't
not the
know
truth.
that you
Yeah,
have them. See, that's
you don't,
another
you don't
thing.
know how you're going to respond. You
You
just
don't.
don't know how your body's going to
Right.
respond.
That's right. So I would say for end it up, I would say that it is a hard time. Uh, I've learned to appreciate. I
Mhm.
truly, we say that life is short. It was a cliche. No cliche, no
No.
anymore.
Right. Not
I
anymore. Yeah.
I really am learning to smell the roses. I come
Mhm.
outside. I'm not an outdoor person, but you see me. I'm outside now, looking, just breathing the air.
Yeah. Yep.
So I am appreciating things. I am appreciating people and things. I used to appreciate things. Now, Teresa, I stopped shopping. That's been a good thing. Nakisha can tell you because I was always in the store, but since Corona, I have stopped that, and because of that, I wasn't an online shopper. So I'm glad I haven't started.
You're lucky.
Yeah. I'm glad I haven't started that yet, but I'm trying to. I'm coping. I'm coping, but it's a day to day. I was okay today. But I don't know about tomorrow. So
Mm.
I love that you're going outside more.
yes, yes.
Well, I must say, no, I'm not going outside more. I'm not getting one with nature. I'm not. I'm not appreciating the flowers and the trees because they're making me sneeze.
Mm-mm.
Um, but I will say, and part of why I'm doing this, what I will say is that I have had time, even with everything that's going on, I have had time to really do some soul searching on who I am and my
Mm.
purpose and walking that out. And I want to thank each and every one of you ladies for the past 2 times, and I hope you'll be willing to do it again.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
for
Mhm.
this was a vision that I had, and this came about with this whole soul searching, and I've realized, God has given me this capacity to do multiple things, because even when I try to rest, the visions still come, and whichever one where I'm like, oh, that looks good, and then I'm jumping on it. I'm going. So I'm grateful for you ladies and your honesty and your time with sharing everything that you have shared. I truly believe that each and every one of us with our voices, that there are people out there who can relate to us. that we have knowledge to share, to encourage someone, and if nothing else, so someone else can see I'm not alone. There are other people out there that feel the way that I feel and have gone through what I've gone through. And really, that's what the human race is about, us lifting each other up, and encouraging each other. And if you figure something out, pulling someone else up with you. And I feel like these past two videos, you all have done that. You all are wonderful. I do want to give you all a couple of minutes or a minute to do any kind of, if you've got something coming up that you want people to know about or want them to be involved in. I kind of mentioned some of the things that you all are doing. So, Teresa, I'm going to start with you. Is there anything coming up that you want us to look out for that you may be doing?
Well, of course, I have a lot of podcast episodes that are in the library that need to be released. So I've just been sitting on them, but I will be releasing some awesome ones, some great ones that I feel are relevant. Even though they're in the library, they're still relevant today. So yeah, and I could honestly talk to you ladies like for hours. The hour goes by so quick.
Yeah.
So quick.
It does, yeah.
It did. All right. Candace, anything you want us to be looking out for that you've got going?
Well, and I think I talked to you guys probably before the recording started that one thing that this whole pandemic has taught me is to push past my fear and live for today and live out your purpose for today. So I've decided to try to tackle my fear, and I've always wanted to do a podcast. I'm working on that. And so just stay tuned. I'm still working some things out, but I'm going to move forward in doing that.
Yes, we can't wait.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You. All right, Miss Charlotte of Angry Den Counseling.
Okay, for those of you who are having issues coping, and that's a lot of us coping, we got a lot of anger going on. So I just want you to reach out to the Angry Den. You can contact me 314-246-9535. That's again 314-246-9535. And hopefully we can work through some of this anger that we all are facing right now, and get you some coping skills so we can make it through this here pandemic safely and mentally well.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you, Father. That is wonderful. All right, well, thank you all once again. This has been great. And stay tuned for our next topic.